We're just going to go over the basics here. I have another class where I show you in detail how to use this camera, but you don't need to know that now. You just need to know how to power it up and look through the lens and take some sample footage. I'm going to put it in a SmallRig cage. The cages are nice because you can attach batteries to them, things like that. So that's the bottom of the cage. This is the top. I'm going to go ahead and slide this in. So see the side of the cage, and I should have told you this, the side of the cage that doesn't have the double bar, that's the handle side of your camera. I'm going to flip it over, and there's a little piece here that can only go one way. And don't put the screw in first because it's hard to line it up, but there's two holes in the bottom of your camera that this will go into. And once that pushes down, then you can put that screw in. You don't need it crazy tight. And up top, one more screw. You're going to get a lot of screws, Allen wrenches, stuff like this as you buy this gear. I just keep all my screws in one bag, so if I'm ever missing anything or need one, I know where they are. Great. Now this is in. Now let's take a look at this. First off, let's start with our media. So there are 3 ways to record footage from this with this camera. One of them is you can connect a USB drive over here. There's a little port. It plugs in right here. These little rubber lids, protectors, I get why they're there to keep junk out of your camera, but honestly I think they're a huge pain. And I'm tempted sometimes to rip them off, but if I ever resell this camera, I don't want to rip them off. So I always leave them off and just move them out of the way when I plug stuff in. But a USB drive can plug in on this side. This is a little hard to open. You just have to put your thumb here and press down and then pull it like that. And in here you have room for an SD card and a CF card. Don't record on SD cards. External USB drives, especially on set on a gimbal, it's not convenient. You can get a cable pulled out. I've had that happen before. I tried to record something, the cable's a little loose, messed up a take. This just slides in, and if you want to eject it, you just push on it. Okay, it's hot swappable. Like you can put that in and take it out while the camera's on. Just don't do it while you're recording. And then you just push that shut. So that's media. Turn on the camera. It's just a power switch here. And you're going to see a display. And down on the bottom, you'll see your media represented. You can just touch on that. And then you'll see your media here, and you can highlight it and hit Format. And then Format CFast, you have to choose whether it's Mac or the exFAT for Windows. So I'm leaving it Mac, Format, hit it again. You have to hold it down, and then it'll format. I'm going to power this off for a second, because in order to record anything, we need to put a lens on. So here's our lens cap, and here's the big thing to know. You always want to take this off for as little time as possible. You don't want any dust in there. It'll ruin your takes, obviously. And you don't want this to ever get dirty. So I typically, even sometimes when I've had this in my case, I'll take it out before taking this off and blow some air on it, or just lightly blow to make sure there's no dust that would fall in when I take it off. And then here's my 50mm anamorphic lens from Suri. Take this off. And if this was live and I was on production, you want to check your glass, check your sensor, and make sure there's no dust particles. And there's a cleaning kit in the community that you can use to blow air on it instead of, because you don't want to blow on the sensor on the lens yourself because you get saliva on that and that won't work. But a little thing that can blow and a little brush that can safely brush things off. And the lenses will always have a red dot on them, either inside or on the side, and you match that up with the red dot on the front of your camera, and then turn it, and it locks. Okay? See, like this right now, there's some fine dust there, so I would brush that off before shooting. And so now when I turn that on, I can see through the camera, and this gives me focus. This ring right here controls aperture. you're going to get more used to exposure as we're in production and using the gear. But remember, going to a lower aperture just lets more light in. It opens it up more, a lower f-stop on your lens. And then you can just focus, and this will allow you to see things on set, see what framing you can get in tight spaces, stuff like that. Now let's add some more battery to this camera. In fact, just to make this easier. So this is the NP-F battery adapter from SmallRig. There's one screw here in the center, and you can put it anywhere on this cage. If this was going on a gimbal and I needed to balance it, I'd put it in a very specific place, and that's covered in that lesson. But for now, it can go anywhere. And then the NP-F battery has two holes there that go on these prongs. And so put the battery in part way and then push it. Then it'll click in, and then to remove it, you just push that down and pull it back off. And then here's the power cord, and that goes into the 12-volt side. And then it's the same, I'm not showing you the AC power adapter here, but it's the same end, okay? And this is weird. If you look closely, there's a little notch that is the top of this, okay? So I'm gonna make sure that's up top. It's actually kind of hard to see. And then right here, the second one up is the power. Rotate it until it snaps. There, it pushes in. And then to remove it, there's a little metal ring that you pull back on to unlock it, okay? So let me put that back in. There we go. Now I'm gonna power this up. And I need to turn this guy on. And when I do that, you'll see the battery icon change. The voltage level will change on it. Okay, so we're set to go. So this is what I would have at a minimum to go to set, along with the stand if needed, to prepare for my shot list. When your media is in and you formatted it, then you simply just hit record to do a take, and then hit that record button again. You can also hit record here on the back and stop it the same way. Again, I go through all the details of this camera in another lesson, so you'll know how to use it very well. But this will get you going just to take it to set and work on your shot list, things like that. Now, something else you need to do, if not now, before production, I would just do it now, is you need to update the firmware on this camera. So what is firmware? If you're techie, you understand this. Let me just quickly say, electronic devices like this, phones, cameras, whatever, they have essentially software that resides on some chips inside the camera that control the interface, control how it works, etc. And manufacturers will introduce improvements, enhancements, fix bugs, stuff like that, and it's called firmware updates. And the way to do that is there's a place on the Blackmagic website, and I'm going to show it to you here in a second, but you basically go to the website, you download an application, and then you connect this to your computer with a USB-C cable, and we update the firmware. So let me walk you through that really fast. I'm going to grab my computer, and we're going to go to this link, blackmagicdesign.com/support. And once you're there, click Professional Cameras, and it changes the bottom portion of the screen even if it looks like the screen doesn't update. So just scroll down and look for an update specific to the Pocket Cinema Camera, because there's other camera updates on there like for the Ursa. So make sure it says Pocket Cinema Camera, and then download the correct file for your operating system. And it's also going to let you register your camera at this time. And if you haven't registered yet, I would go ahead and do that. So you can plug in your information here, and it wants the serial number of your camera, which isn't really straightforward. It's in this battery compartment. Just pop out the battery, and there's a sticker inside with the serial number. You can also get it somewhere here in your box. It also has a serial number as well, but it'll definitely be in there. Now that you've downloaded that file, we need to connect your camera to your computer. And you do that with the USB-C cable, and it plugs in just to the right of where the power plugged in on your camera. And then plug that in over here to your computer. Your computer, depending on what kind you have, should have multiple USB-C ports. And then go ahead and turn on your camera. And now let's double click on that file, and it should extract another file, and then we can double click on that. For Mac, it's going to be a DMG file. And it's going to open up a Blackmagic camera setup. And you want to double click on the Install Cameras icon. Click OK to let it access your folders. Click Continue, and Continue, Agree. You might have to enter a password, and then Install. Once that's done, you should see this camera setup screen, and just click Update Now. And there we go, camera's updated. So I'm going to turn my camera back off, and then unplug it. There we go. And now we're ready with the latest software, ready to go on set and do some quality pre-production work. Another little note too, I like this handle from SmallRig. It mounts right here, and it's really handy for grabbing your camera and carrying it around, even like if you have your camera on a gimbal or even a small stand, that can be used to securely carry your camera around. So if that looks good to you, that's in the community as well, just check that out, but that would just mount on there. I never knew how much you'd use Allen wrenches as a filmmaker. But there we go. It's a great way to move the camera around on set. That wraps this lesson. Again, just a very basic intro to get you going for what you need to do for shot listing during pre-production. But if you have any questions, please post to the community. We're going to cover this camera in much more detail later. And if you're on the fence about getting one of these, I highly, highly recommend it. The combination of the Pocket Cinema cameras with DaVinci Resolve is amazing. I wish I would have had this when I first started. So, without further ado, I'm going to sign off. I will see you in another pre-production lesson soon.